Hey everyone, so I have not made a video in a very long time. I have been working a lot since I got out of school and started summer, and I had less time than I thought I was going to for the summer to actually do videos. But I'm very excited for this video, for the one that I'm going to be making tomorrow, because it is a book review, and I haven't done a video in a long time, but I also haven't done a book review in a long time because I don't read. I'm using my camera and it doesn't have a flip out thing, so I don't know what I look like right now. Hopefully I'm in frame, and it's also very hot, so my hair might be going up in about 2 minutes. So if you saw the title, this video is going to be a book review on Crazy Rich Asians by Kwan. That was a very booktubey excited way of pronouncing that. So the movie came out, it's been like, it did really well, made like $34 million in its first 5 days. Super good movie. I finished this and then I went to go watch the movie the next day, and I'm gonna be making a review of the movie like tomorrow, I think. Probably not today, but tomorrow I will be filming and hopefully uploading my review for the movie. But this video, like I already mentioned, is going to be about the book. Now, this book was so good. I really loved it. 5 out of 5 stars for me. I had to put my hair up. It is too hot, and I even have my AC going. But anyway, so this book, what was I saying? 5 out of 5 stars. I really love this book. I am a very slow reader, and it annoys me because I know some people like read a book super quick and they just like get through it and that's that. But I tend to like read every single word, and then if I catch myself like trying to read faster and like skip over things, I just go back and read it anyways, because like I feel like I have to read every single word or else I'm gonna miss something, and sometimes I do. So like I just feel like I have to read every word. But I finished this book in like 3 to 4 days. This book is 522 pages, and I know like some people read really quick, but like for me, that's a really quick. Finishing a book in a week is like really fast for me. So as you probably already know, this book is called Crazy Rich Asians, and it's about some crazy rich Asians in Singapore is where it takes place. Before I continue, can I just say like how wonderful this book and how wonderful this movie has been for just more representation in the book world and the Hollywood cinema world. It is about Asians from Singapore specifically, and it also is about the one character, the main Rachel Chu character, who is a Chinese American from America, and so it doesn't tackle every single type of Asian out there, but it's good for what it does. One movie wasn't going to tackle all of the people within Asia, because that's just not really possible. Same thing if you were to say like, oh, a Mexican characters like representing all of the Latino population in like South America, Central, it just doesn't work. So the fact that this book tackled the one group of people, and I think from kind of my perspective as a non-Asian person and like how Kwan kind of tackled the situation, I think he did a really good job, because I was trying to think of it from that perspective of like, oh, it didn't tackle everybody's situations and all that, but like, it's one story. It's only one story about one family. It doesn't have to be about everything. So basically what it was about, I thought the book did a really good job. And the movie, I'm gonna get into that tomorrow, but I really thought the movie was great. I love the movie. Usually I put post-it notes and stuff in my books whenever I talk about them, but I just didn't do that because I was reading it so fast. So I have some notes right here on my phone. But let's see, what did I write? I wrote, starting off, I like that it's in different perspectives. I always like books like that. So yeah, this book is told from different perspectives of several of the different characters. The second book tackles a little bit more characters because I already started it, but the first book has Rachel's point of view, Nick's point of view, who are the main couple, Nick's mom's, Eleanor's point of view, who else? Astrid. We're gonna get into Astrid because I loved her. Alright, let's just start off from the very first chapter of this book, when Eleanor and her family are in, it's like the 80s, and they're in that one they're in that hotel, and she basically buys the hotel. That was dope, and that just kind of set the tone for the entire book of like how much money and how much power these people have. So that was a pretty crazy way to start the book, and I really liked it. So I was like, this book is off to a great start. I am enjoying this a lot. And yeah, there's a lot of what's it called, chapters that are told in like Eleanor's point of view, and she is definitely a main character in this book. She is Nick Young's mother, and this book was definitely like a soap opera type of thing. It's like the guy takes his girl to see the family, and the family doesn't like her, and they try and split them apart, and it was like, this book was definitely very cliche, but what made it so different and what made it such a good book was that it took place with these Singaporean people, with these characters, and because of that it had specific points from those people. So it had the language, and it had their culture, and it had certain, like, their food and how they dress according to their own like style over there, and it just had their culture, and that's what made it like put it to another level for me, because we've all read and seen rom-coms and all that, but like the fact that this book was in the point of view and perspective and in the culture of the Singaporean, or like the rich Singaporean people, it just brought it to another level for me, because like, when does that ever happen, you know? This book takes place like 2 years after Rachel and Nick first meet, and that was one thing that I also really liked, because, you know, you read a lot of books and it's like, oh, they're meeting for the first time, and then they're dating, and then this and that. It's like, no, this book's, they're already in a relationship. He wants to take her to meet his family. He's thinking about marrying her. Like, they're already in that point in the relationship, and I kind of like that, because I do like the angst and all that has to do with like characters dating and whatnot, but like they were already in an established relationship, and I just really like that. Also, another really random thing that I just wrote in my notes before I continue about like the actual specific pages and stuff like that, it was really funny, because in a lot of lines that Nick has, he says like like er, like as an like he's thinking before he talks, and I just thought that was funny, because I always laugh when I read that in a book, because I remember when I was reading Harry Potter when I was younger, Harry does that a lot. He says like a lot in the books, and I've always thought that was funny. It's like, why don't they just say like, why is it and anyways, he does that a few times in the book, and I just thought it was funny. So yeah, the first note that I have here is on page 35. Let us turn to 35. All right, that's 52. Go back. All right. Yeah, so this is the first chapter I think that we get from Nick's point of view. Up until now it's been Eleanor and Rachel, and so I just thought it was really cute how he was talking about Rachel. They're in their apartment, or in one of their apartments, and she's just sitting there like looking on her computer, and he's thinking about like how beautiful she is and how wonderful she is, and I'm just like, get you a man like that. He is great. Can I just say that I really loved Nick's and Rachel's characters. I thought they were fantastic. Those two and Astrid, absolute favorite characters in the books. Astrid especially, she was my favorite, but Nick was just such a gem of a man, and Rachel was so wonderful also. I just absolutely love them. But yeah, when she first gets there, she doesn't really have that kind of impact yet, because she meets Colin, who is the guy that's getting married to Araminta, and I didn't know how to say her name until I watched the movie, and they're like, Araminta. I'm like, oh, that's how you say it. I don't know what I was thinking in my head when I was like reading the book. I think I just saw like Ara and just said that. I don't know. But yeah, so they get there, and Araminta and Colin are super down to earth. They're super humble. They take him out to eat, and it's just a fun night. It sounds awesome. I really want to go to Singapore and eat all of that food. Just all of it. So that is Rachel's first impression of Singapore and first impression of his like friends and family, and it's a good impression. So she kind of goes into the rest of his family with kind of high hopes, and like, I don't know if she goes in with high hopes, but she goes in with like not a bad impression. Do you know what I mean? So then on fast forward, page 134, Rachel actually has her best friend Pik Lin in Singapore, who lives there. She's very rich, and she lives in Singapore, so she goes to visit her best friend, and I just thought Pik Lin's entire family is magical and wonderful, and I love them. I just love the first initial like meeting, not of Pik Lin and Rachel obviously, but like their first meeting in Singapore, and when Rachel is meeting her family, that entire scene was hysterical and wonderful, and like the description of Pik Lin's house, like in how they tried to copy Versailles, and how it just beautiful, and like all of these descriptions of the buildings and of the decor and of the food and of like the beautiful clothes, that's what made me so excited. Like literally mostly so excited to watch the movie, because I just wanted to see it. I wanted to see all of like the magical buildings and like all that, and the movie definitely got to, like, it did that for me. But anyways, talking about movie tomorrow. All right, moving forward, Nick and Rachel are at the Araminta's bachelorette party and Colin's bachelor party, and so these scenes took up like a little chunk of the book. And so Araminta invites Rachel to go to her bachelorette party, and it's on an island, like an entire island for a bachelorette party. Can you even imagine? Anyways, that's just like a lot of the things in this book blew my mind with like how rich these people are. But I'm looking down because my notes are down here. But one thing that I thought was really adorable for Nick and Rachel's characters was that when they were at these parties, Rachel was like, oh, this is so awesome. I wish, I can't speak today. I wish Nick was here to experience it with me. And Nick was like, oh, this is really cool. Rachel was here to see it with me. And I was like, that's love. That's super cute. When you're like doing something and you're like, oh, I wish so-and-so was here to do it with me. I'm like, that's adorable. And I love it. Then a little bit more that goes into what Nick's character is like is on page 243. That's the scene where Bernard in the book and Bernard in the movie, like the guy, like what I was visualizing as his human self, that's a weird way to put it, but like it didn't match in the movie, and I don't know what I was thinking, but anyways, regardless, yeah, that whole scene with the dog fighting and how Nick was just really uncomfortable, and so was Colin. He's like, this is really messed up, we don't want to be here, I don't want to have to like deal with this is messed up, like dog fighting is not cool. And I was like, okay, yes, more into the kind of character that Nick is. He is a decent fella. And then we're kind of going back and forth from the bachelor party to the bachelorette party, and then there's a scene at the bachelorette party that Rachel is witnessing a conversation between a few of Araminta's friends, and a girl, I think her name was Isabel, she's like talking about this guy that she knows and who she's like in love with, and then all her friends are like, do you really think that's a good idea? And then one of the friends is like breaking it down for her, like, he can't afford you won't be able to live the life you want, and she's like in tears. And I'm like, I think that was one of the first whiffs that we got of like how mean these the girls can be, you know. Okay, before I continue, but almost every single page, there was an asterisk for something in the book, or like in the story, and then, you know, in the bottom, let me see where I can find one, something like this, where there was like, can you show up or not? Like that. Do you see that? And so it was funny because Kwan would like write a little snippet of what he was talking about, but it wasn't just like, oh, a definition, oh, this is this. He had his own little spin on it, and it was just really, really funny, reading all of those specific little things that he would put in there. I just love that. Side note. Okay, then we get to page 270, and this is the part of the bachelorette party where the whole fish situation goes down. And I was honestly so shocked when I read that part, because that was like the first time that I'm like, wow, these women are so vicious, and like for what? They don't even know Rachel. There's like not really a chance that any of them are gonna get with Nick. They're just mean. And so what they do is Rachel goes back to her like place that she's staying at for the bachelorette party, and they like gut a fish and like leave it in her bag and like write a really mean thing on her on something, and that was just crazy. And then we finally have Nick and Rachel specifically, meet Nick's parents. And so they were already in Singapore for like a week before they were actually able to meet Eleanor. And this is because Eleanor was off and about with her girlfriends, like trying to find something about Rachel. They don't tell us, like, the book doesn't tell us what it is that she finds until the very end, when like everybody finds out and they kind of confront Nick and Rachel about it. But yeah, she wasn't in Singapore, or she wasn't home at least for them to meet her when they got to Singapore. So a week later they finally meet her, and Nick was thinking, okay, it's just gonna be me and you and my parents, we're all gonna meet each other, it's gonna be great. So they get there, and Eleanor like kind of dismisses Rachel as soon as they walk in the door and just talks to Nick. And so in the movie, Rachel like goes in for a hug and stuff, and like that was not how it was in the book. So in the book, Rachel bows respectfully, she gives her like a bunch of mandarins or something, because like that's what her mom told her to do. And it was funny because Eleanor is like, why is this girl doing this, like what is she doing? And again, I'll say this more in my review tomorrow, but in the book, Eleanor is just another really mean girl. She's not really, she's aggressive, but she's like passive aggressive. She's not really outwardly aggressive. Like, people aren't really afraid technically to be in her presence. They're more afraid of like what she'll do and what she'll say about them elsewhere. She's not like mean to your face necessarily. Like, she plays nice, and that's like almost worse. Like, I'd rather people, if you don't like me, can you just be mean to my face so that I know? Like, don't play the part and then go and just like, I don't like that. And that's how Eleanor was in the book. She was just like another older mean girl, kind of like Francesca, who was the one who did the whole thing with the fish to Rachel. Then, so it's not just a little family dinner at Eleanor's place. She invited a whole bunch of other people, including that Francesca girl who actually happened to be like Nick's girlfriend back in the day. So they go and they have their dinner and whatever, and everybody is just like, it's slightly awkward. And so Francesca even makes like a comment towards Rachel about the fish thing, and Rachel's like, oh no, she did it. So moving forward, things happen. And then the craziest part of the book, the last 100 pages I read all in one sitting. It was absolutely insane. I was not expecting the final events in the book to actually happen. Rachel finally tells Nick everything. He tells her like what they've been saying about her, the whole thing with the fish, just all these different like messed up things that she's experienced in Singapore with while Nick wasn't with her. And so he's like, oh my god, I didn't even know, I didn't realize. So he's like, you know what, he's like, we're gonna go away. He's like, get in the car, we're gonna go to elsewhere. And so they actually head out to this property that his grandma owns, and he's so cute. He's like, I'm gonna propose to her there. He's like, I was going to propose to her in like a few months from then on their actual anniversary, but he's like, no, I need to show her how much I love her now. He's like, I'm gonna propose to her tonight. And so they get there, and then Nick stops in his tracks. He's like, why do I see my grandmother's like assistant person on the beach? He's like, oh no, my grandmother and my mother are here. And what are they doing here? So they finally, they go into the house, and they see his mom and his grandma just sitting there, because there was a whole scene in the beginning with the grandma like having a party, and that scene kind of introduced Rachel to everybody, but they made it a bigger deal in the movie. And so like his grandma is there because he's really close to his grandma. And I just thought that this entire scene was absolutely mind-blowing, because already Rachel had gone through so much with everybody else, and now she's face to face with the man that she loves and like two of the other most important women in his life, and he's like kind of right in the middle. Well, he's not really right in the middle because he chooses Rachel, but like they go, and he's like, what are you guys doing here? And so Eleanor, she's still not being super aggressive. She's still being kind of like passively aggressive and like very dramatic. And she's like, Rachel's been lying to us and yada yada, because this whole time we've thought, I jump up and down whenever I do my book reviews. They're always so random. But up until this point, we knew that Rachel lived with her mom only. Like, her dad was dead, apparently. So when Eleanor was away and being a little detective, she was finding out information about Rachel. And so what she supposedly found out was that Rachel's dad was not dead, and that he was actually in prison in China. And so they go, like Nick and Rachel go to see the mom and the grandma, and then the grandma's like, I don't give you permission to marry her. And Eleanor's like, she's been lying to us this whole time. Her family is a disgrace. They have no money. You cannot get involved with her. The scandal would be amazing. At this point, Rachel is like thinking more of like the fact like, my dad isn't dead? What are you talking about? And so, what's it called? She like is freaking out, and Nick is just getting mad. He's so upset for Rachel, but also at his mom and grandma for even doing that, for even getting in the middle of his engagement and like getting in the middle of the relationship to that extent. So the reason why I thought that scene was just so crazy and messed up, because okay, they didn't want this girl to marry Nick. Fine. There was never a scene in the book where they like tried to pay her off, where they tried to just sit down with her and be like, you're not good enough, you need to go, like get her self-esteem like to leave, you know? They do that in the movie, but I was really expecting that in the book, and it never happened. So that's why I was like even more shocked when this scene happened in the book, because they were like outwardly saying it, but they waited till the end. So they just decided to go in for the biggest thing at the very end. And so the reason why I thought that this scene was like so crazy and so mean was not even because they were trying to get in the middle of Rachel and Nick's relationship, but because they were almost getting in the way of Rachel's relationship with her own mother, because then she became really angry with her mom for not telling her this, like a little bit later on in the book. And so they basically give this poor girl like an identity crisis because of the fact that they didn't want her to marry their son and grandson. It's like, you didn't have to go that far. Like, why didn't you try just like being a little bit more mean to her, like sitting her down and being like, you are not allowed? Like, why did they have to go so far and cross such a line in order to make it happen? And it works for a little bit, but like they still end up together and it's fine. But like, that just blew my mind that they really went that deep into giving this girl like a like I said, an identity crisis, like with herself. Like, she's like questioning who she is, her relationship with her mom. She's obviously questioning who her dad is. And so like, that's just insane. Okay, so this whole time, I haven't talked about Astrid, but Astrid was my absolute favorite character. She was great. I absolutely loved her. She's like one of the richest women in Singapore. She's super classy. She has all the couture outfits. She's like the envy of every woman in Singapore. Everybody either loves or hates her. Mostly hates her because they don't know her and they want what she has. And so Astrid is married to Michael, and they have a son named Cassian. And so in the beginning of the book, like in the very beginning of the book, she finds a text on his phone that he's basically cheating on her. So that's kind of the storyline throughout the entire book, is her and Michael kind of like going back and forth. And like, so eventually she actually confronts him about it. And then he's like, oh, what's it called? Fine, you caught me, I'm leaving. And so she's like, what? He's like, why are you like rolling over and playing dead so easily? So that whole story continues, and Astrid is she's Nick's like closest relative. She's his cousin, and they're very close to each other. And so Astrid is just a really, really great person. And so Michael, her husband, they've been together for about 5-6 years, and he refuses to like take any of her money to pay for like where they live, what they have, and she's okay with that. She doesn't need this super lavish lifestyle to like be happy. She was very happy with her life before she read that message on his phone. So she's like, you know what, we can get through this. I can deal with it and look past it. And so he what's it called, he's just like, no. He's like, from the moment I married you, because they have this whole conversation at the end where like everything goes down, and I was so sad, like I wanted to cry in this one scene because I felt so bad for Astrid. And so he's like, from day one, I haven't been happy. Like he's like, I know about all those dresses that you buy, and the amount of money that I make in 1 year isn't even enough to pay for one of your dresses. And he just feels so inferior to her. And she's like, I have never made you feel that way. I've always tried to make you a part of my family. I've always tried to make you feel like you're worth something. And I'm thinking, I'm like, girl, that is not your job. Like, if he doesn't feel man enough, and if he doesn't feel like he can support his family, then that's his own problem. Like, that's his own stuff to deal with. He shouldn't like want to take that out on you and want to ruin your marriage because he can't afford one of your dresses. It's like, dude, she has money, she has properties, like let her pay for something. Just because you're the man in the relationship doesn't mean that you need to be like, it's an end all if she helps out in the family. Like, so in the book, she's absolutely devastated and all that, but she has an ex-fiance that she was, well, that existed, Harry Shum Jr. in the movie. He was in it for about 2 seconds, but regardless, his name is Charlie. So they kind of get back in contact because of the wedding at the end of the book, and so they are both there and they meet up, and they start talking. He's like, yeah, I've been split up from my wife for 2 years, and she's like, oh, I just found out about this. So before the whole thing that I just said, that happens after they meet, because then he takes her to Hong Kong to like finally confront him. So I said that kind of backwards. But I really loved Astrid's character, and I really loved Charlie's character, because he just seemed like the absolute sweetest man. Because at the end of the book, she like is still in love with Michael and still wants to be with him. Even though he wants a divorce, she still wants to make it work. And so Charlie, who's still in love with her, he's like, you know what? He's like, give him a year. And if by the end of that year he doesn't want to get back with you, then sign the papers, but give him a year. So instead of trying to put himself to fill that void in her, like love-wise, he does what he can to try and make her relationship with her husband better already. So they have the whole conversation, and then he goes, because Charlie is another like billionaire. He calls up, I don't know who from his job, and he's like, I need you to invest in this Michael's guy, in his business. I need you to basically make him rich. And so he does that, and he does that for Astrid. Like, he didn't have to do that. He loves this girl, but he loves her so much that he's willing to put her happiness and her like life in front of his own happiness and possible like love and getting back together with her. And I just thought that was the sweetest thing, and it made me love Charlie. And I think he's in the next book more, because I barely started the next book in the series. What is it, China Rich Girlfriend? I'm on page 88, so I haven't really gotten that deep into it. This is what it looks like, by the way. But yeah, so they've been going back and forth. Charlie and Astrid have been going back and forth a little bit in the second book. So I have yet to see where their relationship is going to lead. I have some things to say about that in the movie and how they changed it a little bit, because I liked it better in the movie. But regardless, it just really like irritated me that Michael, like, he's like, oh yeah, from one day I was unhappy. It's like, then why didn't you tell her something? Why would you like have a kid and be married for 5 years if you weren't happy? Like, and she completely thought that you guys were happy. So like, why wouldn't you say anything? I don't know, it just blew my mind. Alright, so moving on to Nick and Rachel. So Rachel's really upset. She wants to be alone. So she eventually goes to Pakelin's house. She's really depressed, and she's just in her Pakelin's room. And so Pakelin and her family are all trying to like bring her food and get her in a better mood. And I just thought that was really sweet, because it wasn't only Pakelin, but it was like her entire family that was trying to like help her. And I was just like, ugh, that's so sweet. So the rest of the book was actually kind of insane, because Rachel, she's like, all right, so I have a dad, right? I'm gonna go meet him. I'm already in Asia, like Hong Kong or wherever it was the prison was. She's like, it's 4 hours away. I'm just gonna go meet him. I'm already here. And so Pakelin is like, are you sure you want to do that? And so that's her best friend. So she's like, well, if you have to, like, I'm gonna go with you and I'm gonna help you. So they're on their way to the airport, and Nick, like, Rachel was like refusing to talk to Nick for like a week. And so he's like, fine, okay. He's like, how else can I try and help this girl that I love? So he actually flies her mom into Singapore and literally confronts them and like car, I don't know how to words, but like intervenes so she doesn't get into the airport. And so Rachel's mom comes out, and then they have a whole conversation. Rachel's mom finally tells her what's up with the dad. She's like, yeah, my husband was really abusive, but the man that's in prison is not your actual biological father. And it's just the whole thing about that, and it's supposed to be more of a thing in the second book. Even so, after that, Rachel, or even it was like before that, Rachel was like trying to break up with Nick. She's like, I don't know if I can do this for the rest of my life. I don't know if I can deal with your family. Like, they're not just, you know, a mean two-faced family. It's like they are mean, but they have the power and the money to really do these extra mean things, like hire a personal investigator to go and find out that her father was in prison. Like, that's a next level type of crazy right there. But yeah, and Nick's like, no, he's like, I can like leave my family and we'll go back to New York and we'll live together. And she's like, no, because she's like, I don't want you to resent me years down the line because I kept you from your family. And so Nick is just trying to be like, no, that's not true, like, I want to be with you. And Rachel's just like, nah. And so they separate. But by the end of the book, they're kind of like talking again after Rachel learns everything about her mom and her biological dad. Rachel's mom, Rachel, Nick, and Pakelin, they all go to like some restaurant in Singapore, obviously, and they're just like having a good time eating whatever. And so Rachel and Nick start talking again, and whatever. So that's literally where the book ends. Like, it doesn't go any further than that. We don't hear about Eleanor again. We have to wait till we get to the next book. But it seems like all of this craziness went down, but that Rachel and Nick are going to be okay. And so I will continue talking about this when I finish the next book and do another book review. But yeah, that's where it ended. I really liked the book. I really, really liked the book. It got me out of such a reading slump. Oh my goodness. Oh, and one quick thing. So the reason why Nick actually goes and tries to make an effort with Rachel is because Colin like intervenes in his little depression session in his own house. And so there was one quote that I really liked that Colin said to like get Nick off his butt to go help Rachel. And he's like, he says, he would never give up trying. He would take an impossible situation and make everything possible. And I just like that. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, that's where the book ends, and I just really, really enjoyed it. Again, like I said, it was a little cliche, but the fact that all these characters and the culture and the fact that like the entirety of the characters in the book were Asian, Singaporean to be more exact, was just, like I said in the beginning, just brought it to a whole nother level. And it was just really fun reading that kind of story from a different perspective. But yeah, I think that was all that I wanted to say about the book. I'll say a little bit more when I talk about the movie tomorrow, because I absolutely adored the movie. Can we also just appreciate for a second these covers? Like, are these not some of the coolest covers you've ever seen? Like, I think this one's my favorite and that one's my second favorite, but like, that's just dope. I think I already said it. Absolutely love the book. 5 out of 5 stars. I thought the writing was incredible. I watched a lot of interviews with Kevin Kwan and the actors even after I watched the movie, and Kevin Kwan just seems like a totally cool dude. There was one point in the book where in an interview where he's like, how accurate are like the events and everything that happened in the book? He's like 150%. So Kevin Kwan is actually from Singapore, so like I think he knows. I think he has a lot of like hands-on experience with how it is over there, so I trust him, and he seems really cool. And he was actually in the movie for like half a second, like in the very beginning. I saw him. But yeah, this video is probably extremely long. If you saw it to the end, thank you so much. Please, please, please let me know what you thought about the book. And all of this I'm saying is kind of from the perspective of somebody that is obviously not Asian, but I still thought it was a really wonderful story. I thought it was a really wonderful yeah, story. I really thought it was great. So yeah, please let me know what you thought about the book. Tomorrow, let me know what you thought about the movie. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.